In the grand estate of the Elara family, young Elara grew up surrounded by opulence. Crystal chandeliers, golden staircases, and marble halls greeted her every morning. But despite her family's wealth, Elara felt nothing but disgust for the people she saw around her, the aristocrats, the businessmen, the elite who flaunted their wealth in her homeland of Solaris. The world outside their polished mansions and elaborate gardens seemed cruel and unjust. Elara couldn't ignore the beggars on the streets or the families who barely scraped by. Her parents, like many of the wealthy, pretended not to notice. They assured her that poverty was a product of laziness or lack of ambition. But Elara didn't believe them. As a child, she watched from her bedroom window as the rich dined on feasts and hosted grand parties while others starved in the shadows. Bitterness festered inside her, turning to anger as she grew older. By the time she reached adulthood, Elara had made a decision: she would tear down the entire system. She would take the wealth and power from the fortunate few who had hoarded it for generations and give it to those who truly needed it. It was her life's mission to see the arrogant elite humbled and broken. But Elara knew she couldn't just storm into the halls of power and demand change. So she worked tirelessly, using her family's influence to launch herself into the political arena. She campaigned relentlessly, gaining support from the common people, the workers, and those tired of living in the shadow of the rich. Her message was simple: she would take from the fortunate and give to the unfortunate. Elara was cunning. She manipulated allies, crushed rivals, and took advantage of every opportunity to seize more power. When she finally rose to become the leader of Solaris, she wasted no time enacting her plans. With the stroke of a pen, she implemented sweeping reforms that stripped the wealthy of their riches. She didn't stop there. Those who were considered middle class were also targeted, their homes, businesses, and savings confiscated in the name of equality. At first, the people cheered. Elara was their champion, their liberator from the shackles of a rigged system. The once mighty nobles fled or were imprisoned, and it seemed that justice had finally arrived in Solaris. But as Elara's rule continued, it became clear that something had gone horribly wrong. Rather than distribute the immense wealth she had seized, Elara kept the majority of it for herself. What little remained was divided equally among the people, but it was a pittance, far less than they had hoped for. The economy, now devoid of innovation and investment, began to collapse. Farms stopped producing, factories closed, and soon, there was nothing left to sustain the country. Starvation spread like a plague. Jobs disappeared, and with them, the ability for families to survive. Disease followed, ravaging the weak and the malnourished. The people who had once seen Elara as their savior now saw her as a tyrant, blind to the suffering she had caused. The wealth she had promised to redistribute was rotting in government vaults, while the people fought over scraps in the streets. Elara, blinded by her own greed and misunderstanding of how the world truly worked, could not see the ruin she had brought upon her homeland. She had convinced herself that what she had done was righteous, that she deserved the fortune she had amassed for herself. But the people of Solaris were no longer willing to endure her reign. The uprising came swiftly. The starving, desperate citizens stormed the Grand Palace, overwhelming Elara's guards and advisors. With fire in their eyes and fury in their hearts, they captured her. The once celebrated leader, the girl who had vowed to destroy the rich and save the poor, was now a prisoner of her own making. Elara was thrown into a cold, stone cell deep beneath the ruins of her shattered regime. She had sought to free the people of Solaris, but in the end, she had only replaced one form of tyranny with another. The wealth she had hoarded was meaningless now. Her name, once chanted by thousands, had become a curse whispered in the dark. And as the days dragged on in her lonely cell, Elara realized the bitter truth: she had become everything she once despised.
Amazing, another SlopTube minute. I love it. Did you love it? If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Didn't like it? Comment down below.